on, Wolfpack Nation? Thank you so much for joining us here today. We got an exciting episode here. We're going to be hyping up some NCAA Wrestling Tournament here. We got former NCAA champion, actually, Macchiavello, and former NCAA qualifier, Tommy Gantt. Appreciate you both joining us today. We're going to have some fun today. I'm excited about this.
Absolutely, man. No problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
appreciate you having us.
Absolutely, man. I mean, couldn't be more excited. So, I mean, first of all, again, I mean, I do want to kind of pinpoint one big highlight, which I think really stands out to me from the tournament, which is that literally we had every single one of our wrestlers finish third place or above. And I mean, I haven't checked the record books or anything like that, but I mean, I think that is the most impressive stat from that tournament, on top of obviously having, 4 ACC, champions and all that jazz. But I mean, it just shows you the direction that Pop has his program going. I mean, that's really my thoughts on it. So I mean, Mike, I see you shaking your head, man. So jump into it, brother.
I'm just laughing because I keep looking at Tommy's screen and dude just cracks me up, man.
I love the honesty.
Oh man, I don't know if it's the shape of his head or if it's the headphones.
Wow, shots fired!
Dang,
we got the WWE superstar Carlito on the.
I mean, yeah. Is this Conor McGregor's like stand-in for Smack Talk? Wow.
Oh man. Okay.
I was trying not to laugh, man. I couldn't. I kept staring at his little corner on my screen. I'm like, oh man, I'm about to text him, and then you asked me, so I was like, I'm just saying.
Well, in fairness, it looks like he's wearing Mickey Mouse ears. So I
hey, that's that wrestling cauliflower, man.
No, the picture behind you.
No. The mirror.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
the mirror.
No.
Good times.
Yeah, my man, you were doing great, man. You're doing great. I didn't mean to,
No, man.
mess up your flow.
So jumping back into it, Mock. So again, saying again, all of our wrestlers finished third place or higher at the ACCs, and we pretty much blew out everybody else there. So I mean, it just seems like we're primed and prepped for what we expect to be a huge NCAA tournament for these guys and for this team, for this program. So, but yeah, I mean, so, first of all, so I guess the first question I really want to ask is, so tell it to me this way, Mock. So looking back at 2018, your national champion year, that was our highest finish ever at fourth place. And you won the national championship. Hayden made it to the finals. We had 4 All-Americans that year. So the question which I want to ask, from y'all's experience, and Mike, I'll let you answer first, is, I mean, what's the formula to winning a national champion? Like, do you need typically, 2 or 3 national champions? Like, is there a formula per se, like, of generally what it takes to win it all?
I don't know if it's necessarily a formula. I think the more guys we can get on the podium, the better shot we have. Granted, there was a year where the University of Minnesota, and I can't remember which year it was exactly, but there was a year where the University of Minnesota won the national championship with 0 national champions and only All-Americans.
They had like 9 NCAA All-Americans, I think.
9 NCAA All-Americans, or maybe, I don't know if it was 9 or it was some ridiculous number, but they had the most All-Americans out of any other team. 0 national champions, and they won the national championship. And so then you had a year where you got teams like Penn State has 5 NCAA champions, or the year before, last year, 4 NCAA champions, and they lose to Iowa.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Iowa wins the national championship, even though Penn State had 4 NCAA champions. Now, granted, that's only 4 guys that – 4 national championships is insane.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're in the competition for a national championship. But the more guys we can get on the podium, the better chance we'll have of competing for this team title. And we got a lot of guys that can do it, a lot of guys that can place a podium. And I think for them, the main focus is just staying focused. I was having a conversation. Jacob Camacho was just hanging out at my house, and he just left maybe 30 minutes ago. And we were having a conversation. It's like I'm over here messing with him, just asking him trick questions. But I'm like, dude, you realize that tournament is literally just it's a mind game, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mind game. It's just wrestling.
Yep. Yeah.
You've been doing it all year long. You've been doing it for your entire wrestling career. You've been doing it ever since you've stepped foot in Raleigh. It's like Literally nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
Your job's still the same. Wrestle every position to the best of your ability for 7 minutes or until the match is over.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of the round, regardless of who you're wrestling, regardless of the tournament. It doesn't change your responsibility and your job as a competitor. It
Mm-hmm.
remains the same. And so what happens is when guys get to this tournament, they put this tournament on a pedestal, they start to idolize it, they put pressure on themselves, and they just start changing everything. They start thinking that I needed to compete differently, or I need to think about this differently, or they start thinking about it differently without trying, right? And the environment itself changes the way they begin to approach competition, and and that affects the way they compete. And so it's a mind game, man. And the guy that's does the best job staying focused from round to round, I feel like is the guy that's going to come out on top at the end of the weekend. And so
Mm-hmm.
we got a lot of guys that are super talented, that have a lot of great wrestling ability, and that just know wrestling and have been coached well and are incredibly prepared. They're well prepared for this next weekend. And so I think the staff is going to do a good job keeping these guys locked in, but at the same time, it's up to them as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they're the ones stepping out on the mat for 7 minutes, not the coaches, and so they got to go out there and they got to show up and they got to do their job,
Yep.
which is wrestle every position to the best of their ability for 7 minutes or until the match is over, regardless of the round and regardless of who they're wrestling. So I'm excited, man.
I love it. I love that.
But that's what it's, man. Focus.
Yeah, I love
Focus.
it. So Tommy, let me ask you though, for sure, because from your experience, one of the things that I was kind of looking at the schedules. I mean, it's a long weekend. I mean, you have 2 matches on Thursday, 2 matches on Friday, and then hopefully a championship match that Saturday night. And so it's I mean, the recovery between, has got to be insane. I mean, because obviously you're trying to prep for the next match, or, you're also, have 1,000 things going on, whether it's, preparing yourself, moving around, changing, weighing in, like, it's a lot going on. So, I mean, there's no doubt that I feel like the NCAA is a completely, so like, cause, Mox does say like, that some wrestlers put the NCAA on like a pedestal, but I mean, I kind of understand why, because it's completely different. Like it's gotta be almost impossible to almost do exactly the same of what you've always done, because things are so different there.
It's a monster of a tournament, man, and pretty much not polar opposites, but a little bit different from Mock's experience, man. I lost that second round, so just
Mm-hmm.
to put that in context, if you lose in the second or the first round, it's like 9 matches to back to third. So yeah, you're talking about 2 matches, and 1 match. If you lose first round, then you're looking at 11 matches total to place third, or like 7 or 8 to fifth or something like that. So yeah, it's tough, man. I see
Golly.
why there's a big emphasis put on just the tournament itself. But I think for our guys, we just gotta lock in, man, and kind of take it day by day, match by match, because there's so many different scenarios and outcomes of that tournament. And I guarantee you, and everybody says this all the time, but I guarantee you, if you wrestle that tournament 10 times, you get 10 different champions, man. Most of the time, in those ways, you get 10 different champions. But yeah, I'd say probably just staying focused, man. Our guys are ready, man. I've been in there with them every day. They're ready. It's just a matter of going out there and executing, man. So just focus on the execution.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So again, I want to kind of touch on, each wrestler per se, talk about, their performance at ACC, kind of, talk a little bit about, kind of the initial thoughts on the brackets that were released for them, kind of what the route looks like for them. So, first of all, I got to give a hats off to, the lowest weight being 125 with my man Camacho. Cause I mean, I was texting, a little bit background. I was texting Mock before the AC tournament and saying, I need my guy Camacho to show up, man. Like, Sam Latono's beat that guy 4 times. I'm like, it's time, man. He needs to answer the bell. He needs to get this guy off his freaking plate, man. He needs to like move on. And by golly, he did, man. He took care of business, and there was nobody screaming louder for him than me out there, man. I was so pumped, man.
I can vouch for it.
Yeah, I was screaming, man. It was awesome. So,
Broke my man Greg's eardrums.
yeah, really much so. So I mean, again, it was definitely shocking to see, Sam Latono as at 24, if I'm not mistaken, and then Camacho at 14. But I mean, again, it just shows, in my opinion, again, the growth, that he has shown this year. And I mean, to again answer the bell, later in the season. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, you can have the dual win. I'm going to take the ACC champion win. I feel like that's kind of had to have been his mindset heading into it.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
So
hey, Mark, when you said you were, Camacho was over there earlier, like how much of a mental just getting it like off of his shoulders, that weight of the Latona like block, if you will, because that's just like I kind of said like that's been his kryptonite. I mean, he's done great against all these other wrestlers, but for whatever reason, Sam Latona was like his kryptonite. So he got that off, and so like, how do you think that's going to potentially catapult him in nationals?
I think he was happy to finally get that one back, and that's one he's been itching for a while. And I remember the first time he had lost him in the dual meet, where we ended up losing to Virginia Tech because of the last second exchange.
Yep.
He was wrestling through the position, right? He was doing his job, wrestling to the best of his ability, and he ended up getting put on his back. And unfortunately, the cards just didn't fall in his favor that time, and neither did they the time after that. But I mean, it's hard to beat a really good guy over and over and over and over again. And when you have a guy that is a good wrestler like Camacho and knows wrestling, who's got wins over other NCAA finalists. He beat Jack Mueller one year in the ACC finals and put it on him the year after Mueller had made the NCAA finals. You're just going to continue to make adjustments and continue to dust yourself off until you figure it out. And I think he finally had figured it out. And even if he didn't figure it out then, he was just going to figure it out again the next time. And again, you just slowly chip away every single time you compete against your opponent. And so I think it was just he figured it out. He just chipped away, and he did a good job wrestling through every position and scoring there at the end. So super proud of him, and I think he was happy about it. But at the same time, I think he's on to the next thing, man. Like he's happy about it. He's celebrating, but he's excited for NCAAs, and
yeah,
is what it is,
And because one point which we were talking about before recording that I want to kind of bring up here while we are recording is it definitely stood out to me and obviously Greg as well that the number one ranked wrestler in the 125 is Nick Soriano from Michigan, and he was 11-0. So meaning, so to kind of give some context, typically I see on here, wrestlers compete anywhere between, 20 to 30 matches, give or take, and this guy did compete in 11 matches, was 11-0. And I think Tom, you said he was the national champion last year. So
he was
but it was just crazy to see though that again a guy that only competed in 11 matches
2 years ago. 2 years ago he was.
2 years ago.
Yeah, he beat Fix in the final.
Okay.
Yeah, and he also won the Big Ten championships this weekend, which is also big, right? Like obviously we've seen it play out in our seeds for this upcoming weekend, right?
Yeah.
How our conference placements affect that, and so Big Ten is obviously like the tougher conference tournament in the country, and so winning that
deepest.
Tougher. I didn't say toughest. Now I said tougher. I said tougher, not toughest.
Yeah.
ACC's on the come up, man. ACC's on the come up. I think percentage wise,
we're here. What you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
Here.
Love it. Love it.
Percentage wise, we might have more guys going to the NCAA tournament in terms of like how many guys we actually have in our conference and how many of those guys in our conference are actually going to the tournament compared to any other conference. So, we're deep.
Yeah.
ACC's deep, but so is Big Ten.
Yeah. Well, and they have the big names, obviously. Everybody knows Iowa. Everybody knows Penn State. So it's
we ain't worried about Iowa.
Yeah, no. Well, again, we were one blow call away from putting Iowa in the rearview mirror. You know what I mean?
True.
So so I'm just going to say that. But I do want to say though that so actually the ACC has 40 wrestlers going to NCAAs, which is the second highest of any conference. So.
Second highest of any conference, and we also only have 6 teams.
Right.
That's
exactly.
Yep.
And
that just shows the depth, right? Like,
yep.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout Eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. you can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. And let me ask you guys this too. So what's the point for Duke Wrestling? I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just gonna ask you guys.
What do you mean?
I mean,
my guys.
I know, man. I'm just like, golly, those poor guys, man. Like that coaching staff probably works so hard. Those wrestlers work so hard. The Fine Silvers are great wrestlers, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're good people. They're good.
Yeah, they are.
I think it's tough, man. Think about it. I mean, that they're pretty much an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
And so your recruiting pool is automatically already condensed
True.
to certain kids that can only reach that only have a certain GPA or have a certain they have a certain basis in terms of like standardized test scores that these kids have to reach, like certain benchmarks. And so the pool of kids that you can recruit from automatically goes from here to here.
True.
And then once the pool gets smaller, it's like now you in this smaller pool, you have to try and figure out how to pick out the needle in the haystack, which kids are going to do well at this level. And so I think they do a great job recruiting high character kids and kids that work incredibly hard. And I mean, it's tough, man. They're in a tough conference with great coaches. I think the head coach there, Glenn Lenham's actually an Oklahoma State grad as well. So you got him, Okie State alum, Pat, Okie State alum, Coleman Scott, Okie State alum.
We won't talk about Scott. Yeah. We won't talk about that clown.
Yeah. No, and again, I want to clarify again. I'm not saying that hating on them. I'm just saying because how many tournaments have we seen where just they'll come and they'll get like 4 or 6 points? It's like, golly, those poor guys, man. Because you know they work hard, man. They deserve credit.
Well, shout out Jacob Casper. That's one of my good buddies. One of both of our good buddies. But from
Julius Creed,
WWE. But I don't think they get a lot of support from their administration. So that can be a huge it can be a huge burden. Because I think from what I understand,
we're trying to coach with a one arm tied behind, like trying to wrestle with one arm tied behind your back.
Yeah,
no, that makes sense. They're one of those schools that you have to qualify high. Like Notre Dame and Stanford's another one that does that aren't Ivy League, but they're essentially Ivy League.
So that's true.
Right. That's a good point.
Then, like a school like Cornell, right? They're Ivy League, but their athletic administration gives them and shows them a tremendous amount of support.
Yeah, they go all in on wrestling. Yeah. That's their bread and butter sport.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it just varies, right, depending on the athletic department. But
that's how it usually works up north too.
That's true. That's true.
Iowa, Ohio.
Which still shocks me why Syracuse and Notre Dame and Boston College don't have programs for the ACC. Like those surprise me because that's wrestling hotbeds up there. But I mean, obviously we're not here to talk about that. But just throwing that out there. That
I agree.
Syracuse is really the big one that surprises me.
I think for me it's Clemson, man. They got all that money.
You think
for
Clemson
winning those national titles, man? Why not? Like how much?
Well, they put the money right back into football. Yeah, but they put it right back. Well, you also remember Title IX. I mean, that's the other thing. So if you're adding men's sports, you got to add a women's sport. So maybe that's why some of these other programs don't have wrestling. But But
so let's jump back here. Because I want to make sure we game. So jumping on to the next guy that I want to talk about, and that's Kyle Rini, and that's a guy that I think this season really has established. Obviously, Pat and Coach Hall have a lot of faith in him, and I mean he definitely, I think, showed a lot of growth in the tournament. Obviously, losing to Virginia Tech's Corbin Myers, number 4 in the country, 6-2, can't really be too upset about that. But then right after that, to bounce right back, win 2 straight matches against top 25 opponents, was super impressive for sure. And they were both gutted out matches. So, I think that, he's also another guy that, I think pretty much all of these lower weights are just guys that you don't have high expectations for, but it's like they can do damage. You can't overlook them. They can beat some of the best out there. I mean, you just ask Ryan Jack, right? So that's my initial thoughts. I mean, so Tommy, give it to me. What's been your overall thoughts on Kai, and what are your kind of expectations for him in the NCAA tournament?
Oh, I mean, I think the expectations the same for all of our guys. For me, man, just being in there with them and seeing them grind every day. I think all of them are capable of getting on the podium, if not the top. But I think Kai's improved a lot, man. From last year to this year, he's just improved a lot. He's been getting better and better after every showing. But he has a nice little quad, I guess, right there. But I mean, I'm taking the NC State guy, man. I think he's getting better. I think he's improving, and that's who my money's on, man. What do you think, Mark?
We'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking NC State all day, every week. So you ask me how I think I'm going to tell you
Well,
I think they're all going to do great.
Yeah. Well, and especially too, I mean, because looking at his first match, and because there's actually a couple of NC State wrestlers that their first match is against a UNC opponent, and Kai is one of those. He's going against Joseph Haleman from Carolina.
I think the seeding committee is trying to sabotage UNC.
I mean,
really?
They're trying to sabotage. Trying to send him to the backside early.
Oh man!
Maybe they're tired of his coach just as much as we are.
Yeah, but and then hey, I mean, right after hopefully Kai takes care of that Carolina guy, he has to go against Dotton Fix from Oklahoma State, undefeated this year. So again, a great opportunity for him. So
absolutely,
and but you know, want to kind of also talk about my boy Ryan Jack. I mean, my boy Ryan Jack. I've golly man, like looking at him, because I mean Kevin Jack, his older brother, who's an assistant coach now, man. I mean,
he was okay.
He was all right. Yeah, no, he was all right. He won too. He won too great.
Shade. I like it.
He won too great. But I'm telling you though, I mean, as great as Kevin, you know, was, you know, multiple time, you know, ACC champion, All-American.
Second most wins in program history, I believe.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Kevin?
So I'm Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Nice.
And but I mean, again, I mean Ryan Jack in his you know, his, you know, true first year this year. I mean, I know that, you know, last year he competed some at the 133, but I think this was really kind of his breakout year. I mean, it's kind of well, I mean, because the reason why I say that is, I mean, you know, I think that it's funny enough that the match that he's the most known for is the one that he actually lost, but that everybody in the country, you know, says he shouldn't have lost. You know, but you know, even beyond that though, I mean, to make it as far as he did, you know, in the ACC tournament and then lose to number 4 overall wrestler, 3-2. I mean, it's just, again, it just shows the incredible youth, and because a lot of people, you know, would come to me and say, you know, aren't you nervous, you know, next year losing Hayden, losing Tariq, you know, losing these guys, losing Thomas Bullard, and it's like, I mean, it's been the same story, you know, different year, you know. I mean, every year, you know, we've lost, you know, some big time wrestlers, you know, and Pat and Coach Hall have found guys that feed right back in, you know. I mean, it's just the way of the beast, you know. And you know, they always say great teams don't, you know, they don't, you know, rebuild, they reload. And I think that's pretty much this program to a T. So
like that.
So
I think too, what I like about this too is I remember Kevin Jack's first year All-American, first year getting on the podium. He had to wrestle Jebba, who was a 5 seed from Iowa, and upset him.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember us thinking like, yo, before the tournament even started, when we saw the seats, it was like, yo, that's actually a great matchup for Kevin. I think we thought Kevin was going to win. We were confident that Kevin was going to pull the upset. Next thing you know, Kevin pulls the upset, goes on to wrestle in the semifinals, and loses to Logan Stieber, who ended up being a 4-time national champ.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's great too is like RJ, he's got a guy from Iowa who's seated above him, who we all think he has the ability to beat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of exciting, right? Because, you know, just hopefully same story, just a different day with the Jack brothers, you know?
I'd be okay with that.
It's funny too, because originally, like, only the top 16 get seeded. So essentially, if we're going by the old brackets or the old way of seeding, he's not even seeded again. So kind of a little bit of deja vu. But I forget who I was telling, man. I was saying that I think he's on a trajectory to be a little bit better than Kevin. No sneak this, Kevin. But he's just had a lot better wins, man, and a lot of not so bad losses, I'll say. But I think he's on his way, man. We'll see this weekend though.
So can I ask again? So I mean, Tommy knows this, but I'm new to wrestling, so
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome to the.
yeah, it's been great. I've been to a couple matches this year. Went to the ACC championship. It's been great. So this is like my new favorite sport. So it's all good.
We're all right.
Yeah. It's hey, I'm happy to jump on the bandwagon. But Mike, I guess my question would be, how did Clark get a better seed than Ryan?
Man,
So yeah, okay, that's good enough for me.
No bias here. It's his body of work. He's only got 3 losses. He's beat a lot of good guys this year. He was ranked like 7th or 6th or something like that coming into this. So they look at everything. They look at your strength of schedule, your ranked wins, your wins over the automatic qualifiers, and else. But his overall score is better than Ryan's. A good bit, I think. Like, I think he's a good bit better than a bunch of guys on there, but he didn't automatically qualify. Everything. His RPI.
Yeah, I mean, he's 15th.
So they typically take into consideration if you got 2 guys that are like fighting for a higher seed, right? They'll look at RPI, coaches poll ranking, and then like ranked wins and who they've beaten. And if you're trying to seed one person above the other, you'll look at head-to-heads. And I don't know. Obviously, good question.
I think he got Ryan during the duel. I think, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, I think he did.
But Ryan,
So,
but Ryan did go further in the ACC. So I was just curious if how the weight works out. But I mean, they're very similar. The only reason I say that is because obviously when Ryan wins, right? Because we're going to say he's going to win. Going against that 2 seed, vice a different seed. So like, that's where it really matters at the end of the day. I mean, obviously, if you want to win, you got to beat the best, but you'd rather beat them later in the tournament instead of earlier in the tournament.
Exactly.
I mean, think about it this way too. You take a guy who's seated above you, and you beat him. You essentially steal his seed.
Yeah.
True.
So arguably,
you have an easier path once.
Better to beat him in the front end.
Yeah.
Right. Get it out of the way. Now, granted, I think too, realistically, when you're looking at the NCAA tournament, you're going to have at least 3 very, very hard matches, right? 3 tough matches that you're going to have to dig deep, get gritty, and be ready to fight for 7 minutes. And you'll have 2 matches that this is if you're going to win the whole tournament. Then you'll have 2 matches where you'll hopefully get some bonus points. But I think what's interesting is you don't know which round that tough match is coming, because which round that tough match comes, because you have guys that wrestle above their seed and guys who may be seated up high and may feel the pressure and may not perform the way that they can perform and wrestle below their seed. And so you just don't know which round that's coming. You just got to be prepared for a dogfight every single round. But if you do happen to beat somebody who's seated above you, you essentially steal their seed.
That's true. That's a fair point. Well, with that being said, again, we'll definitely have to take a break right here for part 1 here. So again, make sure to stay with us again. If you haven't already, make sure again hit that subscribe button so that way you don't miss out when we release part 2 here of this conversation here. Again, make sure to follow this team here. It's going to be awesome weekend here coming up. And make sure to follow every step of the way. And give us a follow at Tuffy Talk now so you don't miss out. Again, we're going to be talking all about it this upcoming weekend. And also to make sure to give this video a like so that way YouTube will put this video in front of more NC State fans. So with that being said, hey, as always, go Pacquiao, and we'll see you for part 2.